Hi guys. Welcome to this is going to be a new series that we're starting. This is going to be at first it was going to be very like professional. I even I literally have this like cool blazer laid out, but I'm too lazy to wear it. It well, not lazy. I just feel like today's a very like rainy, cozy day. Um and so I don't know. I figured we'd take it and have more of a chill approach. I have my emotional support stuffy here, um, my inspiration wall back there. We're like all here. Okay. If you guys are new to my page, don't worry, we're all newbies. I literally just started this channel. My name's Leslie, and I actually do have a podcast with my sister, which I'll like put all the info. Which we talk about fashion and trends. And I don't know, I wanted to have a more like personal approach on this channel besides the studio vlogs. And I wanted to have these like one-on-one chats, something that you could probably just like listen to and not really have to be like focused on. And yeah, and I'll teach you a little bit about things that are kind of inspiring me at the moment and things that maybe I don't know, like that are in the fashion world. It could be designers, it could be events that happen throughout history, like fashion history. If you guys have any suggestions of like topics you want to discuss, let me know. A few that kind of popped into my head for future episodes were like Rana Plaza, certain designers like Oscar de la Renta, and so kind of like the backstory of everything and the lore, if you will. For this episode, we are talking about Willy Chavarria. I was super inspired by his most recent collection and kind of diving into everything, like his whole history, I think opened up like a can of worms, if you will, of like, I don't know, so much more that I don't know. I think sometimes when you see someone be a designer, you assume that they come from like some prestigious school or just like very like they're very known in the fashion world or they have an in kind of into the fashion world. But I think learning about his backstory and see it's very inspiring. Also I love the fact that he is like if you've seen his recent collection, which we'll talk about, he's really in the moment of what's happening politically and he's using his art to kind of talk about that. So I don't know, it's really inspiring. I think it's really fitting with the times. So yeah, so grab a cup of coffee or, just listen while you're doing something else. I just feel like it's gonna be a chill vibe, a chill approach. It's not what I had originally planned, but I kind of like this better. So I actually have a lot of notes. So if you see me looking down at something, it's my notes. But who is Willy Chavarria? Right? Willy Chavarria is a Mexican American designer. He's known for his conceptual and like bold designs. And he is like primarily a menswear designer. His brand, like I'll literally quote it straight from his website. The Willy Chavarria brand is a belief in human dignity and in the right to identity, which I think it's the backbone of what he stands for, why he designs, and you can see that in the work. His notoriety or things that kind of, catapulted him to fame and how he's well known in the fashion industry. He recently got the 2024, that's so weird to say, CFDA award for American Menswear Designer of the Year. He's been in the fashion space for a while. That was his second year in a row winning that. And I think you see the way he highlights Chicano culture in all of his designs. I also think that the people that have worn his designs, so for example, people like Becky G, Kendrick Lamar, Tessa Thompson, Sam Smith, among others, like obviously, Kendrick for the Super Bowl, he was one of the people wearing his designs, and they even designed a collection together for the Super Bowl, which was really, really cool. I think the merch is I think it's still out actually on the website for the Super Bowl, which was the recent one. And I'm pretty sure he also designed or he styled him for the Not Like Us music video. So it's pretty cool to see that he's, I mean, well known, obviously. And that I think he also dressed Bad Bunny for one of like his first magazines. Magazine covers. So I think it's just super inspiring. Like all of these things will pop up here. um but yeah, I just think it's really inspiring. It's kind of cool to see him stick true to his roots and then that kind of be celebrated in this space with other artists and him collaborating with other artists to style them, to dress them, to create collections alongside them. And I don't know, it's really, really cool, really inspiring. So he is from Fresno, California. His father is a Mexican immigrant, and his mother, I think, is also, she's Irish. Not sure if she's an immigrant, but in the town that he grew up in, I mean, his dad was like a field worker, and that town, Fresno, is very much being primarily an immigrant town, and for having a lot of people who live there work in the fields. And so during this time, this is, I'm pretty sure, when like Cesar Chavez was there, and there were so many unions being formed to protect. And so he really got, or he was influenced by the workers' rights, by the activism of this time, and you can see that being carried into what he stands for. And also you also see the way he designs Chicano culture, and there's like a truth to it. There's like this honesty because he knows it. It's not just something he was inspired by, like almost like a one-off thing or a one-off collection. It's very much ingrained in his collection time after time. And I that's also another thing that has, I think, catapulted him to success. It's him staying true to that, him highlighting that, and him being the designer right now, really bringing light to our culture, which I think is really fascinating to see. But he didn't start off just like being a designer. He will kind of go back because he started in 2015, which was almost a decade ago. But way before that, he went to San Francisco to study graphic design. So he didn't even study fashion design, which is kind of crazy. He worked at Joe Boxer, and I'm pretty sure he like started in like the shipping department, and he worked his way up, which is also very cool to see that at the end of it, it's about hard work. And so I'm pretty sure he took like a few internships or an internship to be in the design team. And then he was, I want to say, assistant designer there. So he really learned a lot about design from working there, from being at Joe Boxer. Then he moved to Ralph Lauren when Ralph Lauren started their athletic wear. I think it was called RLX or something like that. And so he really was one of the designers that kind of started that collection or that brand. And then after that, he went to American Eagle, and I think he was there for a long time, which I don't know. It's kind of funny to think that, like, I mean, for people who like go to the mall all the time, like you go to American Eagle, and you probably have a design of his, which is kind of cool without knowing like who he was, especially during that time. Like I think American Eagle was one of like the most popular stores back then. And so yeah, so he didn't have this like normal trajectory of like going to a prestigious school and then knowing people in the industry, having his friends who are also celebrities like wear his clothing, which I think that's kind of what we see and what we know. And so kind of taking this different approach of like he is a child of immigrants, he didn't even study fashion design, and he worked hard to get there like that. And through it all, he's like staying true to who he is and what he believes in and his culture. I think that, I don't know, that's very badass to me. I think that's like super badass. And I don't know, I think it's really cool. But yeah, after he was at American Eagle, he did open a store in Soho, which was called the Palmer Trading Company. And so this was almost like a little boutique. He did a few designs there, but he did have success in it. And I think that's what helped him be like, okay, I can do this. And he started Willy Chavarria in 2015. And that's when he started his actual brand, and which we now have seen collections on the runway. So let's talk about his recent collection and the activism behind that, because that's really the collection that I was super inspired by, that kind of led me to all this. So he had, and this one I need my notes for. So this was, I'm pretty sure, his 10th anniversary. So it was the autumn winter 2025 collection. It was called Tarantula, or it is called Tarantula, for his brand. And let me talk a little bit about his influences in it. So it was very 17th century influence, neo baroque kind of vibe, but he still kept true to the elements of highlighting workwear and sportswear. It was debuted at Paris Fashion Week, and he rode up in, like, you could literally see it in the Instagram picture. I thought this was the coolest thing ever, but in a lowrider. Like, just imagine the streets of Paris and you're in a lowrider. Like, how cool is that? I don't know. I think coming from a Mexican American background and seeing how Western media sometimes portrays Chicanos or Chicano culture into being these like thugs and like, you know, like that's all they are, criminals, or, you know, because it's very racially profiled. And then seeing him twist that on his head, and he's at one of these high places of known for like haute couture, in the streets of Paris, which is like so fancy, to just pull up in a lowrider. It's pretty cool. So yeah, so again, he always highlights like this luxurious vibe, even though it's still workwear and it's still like for the working class. So just think of it as if it were considered work class luxury. Like that's kind of the vibe that he designs and like who he designs for, which I think it's really cool, because that's also a market that's so underlooked. You know, you either have super luxurious, the top 1%, and then you have like replicas of that come out, and then that's what we see at our fast fashion stores, and that's what we have access to, for like the working class or the lower classes. But you know, he designs with the working class in mind and having luxury, which I think it's like, I don't know, it's so awesome to see him do that. And so at the collection in Paris, in Men's Fashion Week Paris, I said that so wrong, in Paris Fashion Week for the men's collection, he had people walk the runway who are well known. So he had J Balvin and he had Becky G. Amongst them, he also had Jerry Lorenzo. So if you don't know, Jerry Lorenzo is the designer behind Fear of God, which maybe that'll be another designer I talk about too. But I think that's so cool for him to have people, not only people of color, and obviously people in the industry, in different industries, the music industry, but also in the fashion design industry, show up and really help him make this statement. And so at the end of it, so there is like this like vibe, because it's almost like in a cathedral setting, and there is this vibe of like the 17th century vibe, like that kind of mixed in with, as you see the people walking through, it's like them dressed up in this work class luxury, all of that mixed together. It's just like, it's giving the same vibe as like you walking the streets of Paris and seeing a lowrider. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you can really tell what he was trying to get across and the statement he was trying to make. And then he closed it with, this is a part where I got emotional and I almost cried, with the Bishop Marianne sermon from the inauguration. Which, if you guys didn't know, if you guys aren't in the US, there's so many things that are going on right now in our political space, and it's crazy. It's literally insane. But we had the bishop in the inauguration be the person that basically was saying, like, to the president, have mercy on these people, on the minorities, on the working class. And I think that in and of itself, obviously, he felt insulted by it. And, which is crazy to think that that's the president we have, but that's a whole other conversation. But Willy Chavarria closed with that prayer, with that sermon, and it was very much about how we love is also who we are. Like, I think that was the message that went through it. And so it really highlighted this, not the political statement on its own, but these communities, that he is an ally to these communities, and he is highlighting their voice in the space that he is able to take up, which I think is really cool. So seeing political commentary on today's political climate from someone of influence and from someone who came from the same background as you, I think is also it should be talked about more, and it should be highlighted more. I think personally, in the long run, because we still don't know what's going on in the US, but I think in the long run, what Kendrick did at the Super Bowl, what Willy did in Paris Fashion Week, these are things that we will see in our history books. You know, it's almost like the people who stood up during this time, the people who had something to say. And so I think it was more than just a collection. And it's kind of crazy to think that it was his 10th anniversary collection that it landed on. It's so inspiring. It's so cool. Again, so badass. And I don't know, I want to know your thoughts. I'm really liking this like cozy approach. I'm like literally in my hoodie, which I think it might be strange for people who are in like the fashion design space, and they're like, I'm listening to a girl in a hoodie on her bed talk to me about fashion designers. But like, this is the thing, like, it goes back to just wanting to be a part of this industry, and it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter the way you see fashion. It's kind of nice if you see fashion in a different way. Because I was gonna do the whole thing of like setting up my studio, having it look tip-top shape, and like dressing up fancy. And like some days, yeah, I want to do that, but other days I don't, and it's okay. Like, I'm still welcomed to the conversation of fashion, and so are you. I don't know, maybe also for like a few of you guys, you might not even be into fashion, but you just wanted to learn something about it. And so I think, I don't know, this will always be welcomed to everyone. And I don't know, I think it's time to be inspired by the greats, but I think it's also time to allow yourself to be included in the conversation, even if you feel like this imposter syndrome. Like, it's okay to take up space. I'm here to tell you, if you took anything away from this episode, that's what it was. Allow yourself to take up space. And again, it doesn't have to be in fashion. It could be in art. It could be in whatever you major in. Yeah. So that's my go-to. And I don't know, depending on how inspired I am, but then also on how well you guys like these kinds of sit down podcasty type of videos, I could do this weekly or bi-weekly. It depends. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys like it. And let me know down below. Like, I want you guys to be a part of this conversation. I also want to learn from you guys as well. So if you guys know anything that maybe I missed, or if there's anything, like any other topics that you guys find inspiring, put them down below for sure. But yeah, see you guys in my next video.